Do you want your aquarium plants to grow beautifully without a CO2 system? Of course you do. A CO2 injection system is not the only way to grow healthy aquarium plants. I'm about to share some secret tips that will skyrocket your plant growth using simple, natural methods. Stick around for tricks that'll save you money and make your tank look like a true underwater jungle. I just started experimenting with something pretty interesting, a fermented banana peel fertilizer. Now, before you think I've lost it, hear me out. Banana peels are loaded with potassium and phosphorus, both of which are essential for strong plant growth. The idea is to ferment them into a mild natural booster. Here's how I did it. I chopped up some banana peels into small pieces, tossed them in a jar with some water, and added a little bit of sugar. The sugar speeds up microbial activity, helping to break down everything. Then, I let it sit at room temperature for about a week, stirring it daily to keep mold from forming. After that, I strained out the solids, and now I have this homemade nutrient-rich liquid fertilizer. I'm keeping it in the fridge where it should stay good for around 2 weeks. Right now, I'm using this in one of my tanks instead of my usual potassium and phosphorus fertilizers. It's too early to say how well it works, but I wanted to share the idea with you guys anyway. If you're curious, maybe wait and see how it goes for me first. Here's something really cool that you might want to try, using moss as a natural CO2 collector. If you're running a low-tech tank without CO2 injections, this little trick might help give your plants an extra boost. Mosses, like weeping moss, have this incredible ability to absorb and store organic compounds. Over time, as those compounds break down, they slowly release CO2 back into the water. It's like a natural built-in CO2 generator, just way more subtle. You can use this to your advantage by placing moss near other plants' roots. I've been testing this out myself by gluing weeping moss around the base of some of my epiphytes. And while it's not an instant miracle, I've noticed those plants looking fuller and healthier. It's a pretty cool and passive way to encourage better growth without adding any extra equipment or tweaking water chemistry. So if you're looking for a low maintenance way to give your plants a slight CO2 boost, adding some well-placed moss might be worth a shot. But before we move on, if you want beautiful, healthy aquarium plants, check out my shop. All of my plants are grown completely underwater with CO2 and strong lighting. And the shipping though, the shipping is where we shine the most. Every plant you order will be shipped in a small pouch, filled with aquarium water, and covered in thermal bubble wrap to protect it from the elements. If that is something you're interested in, there'll be a link in the description. Let's talk about the dry start method, because it can be used for something very interesting. Most people think you can only do this when starting a tank from scratch, but you can actually use it to give your existing plants a serious growth boost. If you've got crypts, swords, or carpeting plants that are struggling to take off, this could be exactly what they need. The idea is simple. Lower the water level in your tank for a few days so the plants are exposed to air. Then mist them regularly to keep them from drying out. This lets them absorb atmospheric CO2, which is way more abundant than the dissolved CO2 in your tank water. And since CO2 is one of the biggest growth limiters in low-tech setups, this little trick can make a big difference. After a few days, just refill the tank, and those plants should have a much stronger root system and a better shot at thriving. I've done this before with carpeting plants that refused to spread, and the difference was noticeable. If nothing else has worked, this might be the next thing to try. One of the easiest ways to boost plant growth without CO2, extra fertilizers, or fancy equipment is simply by trimming old leaves. It's easy to want to leave them alone, especially when they still look perfectly fine. But older leaves just don't pull in as much light, making them far less efficient at photosynthesis. And even worse, they actually steal nutrients from the newer growth. That means your plant is wasting energy trying to keep those older leaves alive instead of putting that energy into fresh, vibrant ones. So, by trimming them off, you are forcing the plant to redirect its resources where they matter most. I've done this with everything from stem plants to epiphytes, and I promise you, the new growth comes in faster and healthier every time. It's a simple way to help your plants let go of what's slowing them down and push out fresh, new growth. Just make sure to trim cleanly at the base of the leaf and remove any that are yellowing, damaged, or just not pulling their weight. It's such a simple tweak, but it makes a huge difference over time. If you want to push plant growth a little farther, but aren't ready for a full CO2 setup, liquid carbon products like Seachem XL can be a great choice. These work by providing a bioavailable form of carbon that plants can use for photosynthesis, kind of like a shortcut to some of the benefits of injected CO2. While they don't raise dissolved CO2 levels in the same way, they still help plants process nutrients more efficiently, leading to stronger growth and healthier leaves. I've used XL in low-tech tanks before, and while it's not a magic solution, it definitely helps certain plants thrive, especially slow growers like Anubias and Crypts. Plus, it has the added bonus of helping reduce algae, since algae tends to struggle in environments where plants are actively growing and outcompeting it. Just be careful with the dosing. Too much can be harsh on more delicate plants like mosses and some stem plants. If you're looking for an easy way to give your plants a little boost without overcomplicating things, adding a liquid carbon supplement might be worth a try. Well, what do you think? Do you want to try a few of those tricks? I definitely think you should. And if you have some tricks of your own, please share them in the comments. I'm sure we can all benefit from them.